What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jobbers and Goons, and today the Goon cinematic universe expands. I've made comic reviews before, I do them in parts, I'll review like a comic at a time, but I've decided to expand the GCU. I'm gonna go ahead and make more long form content, more longer movie style videos. And we are gonna start off with the new Blue Beetle run, the first arc, A Major War, the Scarab War. And I'm going to release this in 3 parts. You're going to get the movie today of Scarab War. You're then going to get the interview with Josh Trujillo, the writer, a good friend of mine, about Scarab War. Get a bunch of behind the scenes details and thoughts going into it, as well as what's coming next. And then I'll do a director's cut or special edition with the interview also added to the movie and placed at the end. Now, you guys get in the comment section down below and let me know which movie should I do next. I've been thinking of Darkhold because I can do a director's cut for that as well. I've been thinking of Kraven's Last Hunt. The new Immortal Thor could be dropped like 6 or 7 issues at a time in movie format. Same with Hulk. There's a tons of stories. There's even classics we could do, like Spawn or Hellboy. Get active in the comments, join my Discord, let me know which movie should come next. And 100 plus likes, I will do Graduation as well. Graduation Day for Blue Beetle, which was the other recent Blue Beetle arc. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Show love and support to the channel. Without further ado, I present Scarab War. So this story starts off with issue 1, in which it's taking place after Graduation Day, in which Blue Beetle has kind of leveled up a little bit and things are getting crazier. And if you, again, now that I think about it, I probably should just drop the Graduation Day movie, as it really works in conjunction with this. But issue 1, they are in Palmyra City, and it is under attack by old enemies called the Madmen from Opal City. During this run, and you'll see in the newer Blue Beetle, they do a lot of references to old characters in DC and underutilized versions of the characters, and really draw back on them and hearken to them to really expand the lore and make it a lot deeper of a story, a lot more rich world building, which is something, honestly, as readers, refreshing to see. And he is fighting the Madmen, which obviously, like I said, were referenced before, and Cord is not entirely worried about it, like he's like, all right, whatever, we got a super team now. What do I mean by that? Well, Jaime and the other Beetles are now friends. There was Scarabs that had initially pulled up to beat Blue Beetle's ass in Graduation Day. However, they realize he's not a bad dude, and they've come together to kind of protect Palmyra City. This unit, this absolute beastly unit, goes on to take down the Madmen. We see at this point that Blue Beetle is struggling to lead the team, and he's not like a natural team leader. That's just not something he's ever been accustomed to doing. But Ted Cord, of all people, hypes him up. And he's like, I wouldn't pick you to be my protege, so to speak, if you didn't have that dog in you. You absolutely can be a monster of a leader in our universe. Even if it's just protecting Palmyra City, you can easily do things to keep it safe. And with those kind of words of encouragement, Blue Beetle's really like locked in again. He's like, all right, maybe I don't suck that bad, which is true. Like, dude, if you have the Scarab, which can pretty much, Taji Dot can do whatever you can imagine, I would never have a confidence issue. But that's just me. I don't know about y'all. Let me know in the comment section. But he's kind of wavering at this point because he understands he's dealing with a lot of shit, and a lot of people will come for him because he is one of the most dangerous weapons in the universe. But still, he's got to adjust and protect his people, right? That's when we see what the Horizon are up to. Now, Graduation Day, it's really showing the Horizon were like the other side of the culture across from the Reach. And they're good people. They're not inherently evil. And they are there to explore, and they want to enjoy Earth. But they are constantly under attack. This is when they kind of reach out to Blue Beetle and they tell him, yo, like, we need protection here on Earth. DC Earth is crazy as a bitch. And he's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. We're not all bad people here. And of course, with me and Kaji Da, I will keep you safe. I will make sure no one hurts you and that you can just go back and forth. We then cut to a crazy scene, a chaotic way to pop off the Scarab War. We see that Ted Cord is posted up in his lab, right? And he gets ran down on. He is under attack in his own crib. he goes on to say, as he's throwing up his defenses, he's a tech genius, right? Even Batman respects that shit. He's telling this attacker, who looks dope as fuck, by the way, some of the best new character design in DC, in my opinion. Y'all let me know what other recent designs you guys like. I love the Blood Scarab. We see him talking his shit, right? He's like, yo, I've dealt with Doomsday, Maxwell Lord, some of the toughest possible combatants in DC. And Maxwell Lord being thrown in with Doomsday is big if true. But regardless, if you are preparing defenses that can hold back Doomsday, you're pretty much ready for almost anything, right? That's when the Blood Beetle walks through and does not give a shit about this, talking shit like, hey, fuck these defenses. I don't care how you're trying to gas it up. I'm gonna body you regardless. And that's when we see Ted Kord get stabbed. He's potentially on life.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
So issue 2 really starts off with the team popping up together to talk about what steps they need to take now. Ted Kord got pulled up on, someone put hands on him, he's in critical in the hospital, and they're trying to figure out how to move forward. And this was a pretty dope moment because Guy Gardner's there, right? And if you guys recall, back in the earlier days with Blue Beetle when he was a rookie, Guy Gardner ran down on him because Guy's a menace for Green Lantern, right? And it's a pretty cool moment here where he says, look, regardless of my history with Jaime Reyes, regardless of my history with Blue Beetle, Ted Kord's my guy. And he said an attack on one of us is an attack on all. We have to get our get back. Like, we just can't let this slide. And on the other side of things, we see they are not the only ones investigating the Ted Kord attempted murder. Victoria Kord, his sister, is investigating as well, even though we know she's sketch. Now, if you saw the Blue Beetle movie, which was a bop to me, they should have advertised that way more than The Flash. If you have seen it, you know who she is. She's not really much of a character yet in DC. Josh has been filling out her character since Graduation Day. But we know she sketches out, right? Like, she'll make a play for the money. She's in it for herself. However, something that's pretty cool here, she doesn't play about her brother. Okay, whether she's evil or not, up in the air. But when it comes to attacking her brother, you don't do that shit. So she's locked in. She's like, I'm going to figure out who pulled up on my brother. That's not an option in the game. This is when we see the other Beetles and get their kind of sense of things. You see, they are characters who got thrown in the Scarab business against their will. It's not like they picked the Scarabs. Scarabs came to them and kind of used them as hosts. And they talk about how strong that connection is to the Scarab. They even say, hey, we wanted to kill Jaime Reyes. We wanted to put Blue Beetle on a t-shirt because we thought he was evil, according to our Scarab. He was an absolute threat. And trying to shake off a Scarab and its hold on you is absolutely no joke, which is a bit of a foreshadowing for what's to come in the Scarab War. But nonetheless, we get some pretty cool insight on what it's like to actually be a Beetle, aside from the main Beetle, of course, which is Blue Beetle. This is when they get pulled up on, right? Not everything can be sunny in Palmera City. And the Blood Beetle, the Blood Scarab, who, that's what we're calling them, shreds the other Beetles. We're talking about putting an absolute smackdown on them. And the crazy thing about this is these are Scarabs that have taken on a contingency team created by Batman that included Flash and Shazam in the modern times. So for them to get absolutely bodied by the Blood Beetle, who is talking shit, this Scarab is like, yo, pussy, guess what? Y'all are knockoffs. Y'all are imposters. You're not even the real deal. And they're shook because they're getting power drained. They're getting bullied. And that's when we see in this matchup in particular, they go down. Like, they were not able to withstand the assault of the Blue Beetle. And the suit is thought to be OG Reach tech. Like, this has to be something from the original Raider stories of the Reach. Like, whatever they were doing, maybe they left something behind and now it's active. But regardless, this Scarab is absolutely powerful, as the Horizon, as well as the Scarabs, are not able to really do anything to stop it. That is when we see one of the Horizon nearly get taken out as Jaime arrives. these are not even the Reach. Like, this is not a Reach operation. This in particular does not seem to have anything to do with what the Reach has going on, which makes this situation incredibly scary. And the reason I say that is Scarabs, for the most part, are associated with Reach or Horizon. Like, you know what you're getting. The fact that they're dealing with such a variable, but this is clearly a top tier Scarab, that's fucking problematic. Like, you don't know exactly what you're dealing with at this point. And we see magic is even used by this blood scarab. And knowing that the arcane is now in play, now knowing that some voodoo shit might be going on, that's where we see Jaime go, oh shit, I think I have to call my ex, which we learn more about what he's talking about in issue 3. So this issue starts off with first of all, it was a dope cover. It shows he's about to be throwing down, and it has a kind of like arcade mode with Blue Beetle and the Blood Scarab. But we see Blue Beetle is forced to pop out to the Oblivion Bar. Now, as fans, let's just appreciate this kind of lore drop, as the Oblivion Bar is one of the more obscure yet famous magical hangout spots in the DC universe. You see characters like Constantine and such always hanging out here. So it's a major W to see Blue Beetle kind of cross over to this, what I would consider like a Justice League Dark type atmosphere, as he pulls up to the Oblivion Bar like, okay, I think my ex is here. My ex knows magic shit. Let's see what's popping. That's when we see they visit Madame Xanadu, right? And she is there, capable of kind of telling him how to deal with this current situation. You know, it's nothing he has an idea about, so they need some inside scoop from the magic and cosmic forces of the world. So Crazy 13, his girl, brings him to Madame. Madame, if you guys don't know, hangs out with characters like Constantine as well as Zatanna, Spectre, a whole bunch of like, she's known by everybody in the magic community in the fucking DC universe. Okay, she's a big dog. She does a tarot reading for him, a card reading, so to speak, and reveals the fate of Blue Beetle. The power they are going to face is only rivaled by the gods themselves. This is, if you aren't catching the drift yet, this is a threat being built up in crazy cosmic fashion. The Blood Scarab is an absolute monster. If Madame Xanadu is saying it's beastly, it's fucking beastly. She's literally pulled up on the Spectre to fight. Like, she's crazy. So for that much emphasis on what he's dealing with, we know the shit that's about to go down is crazy. That's when we see Tracy 13 and Blood Beetle end up in Egypt, right? And this is a location that his girl is certain they can find this beetle act, or at least an idea of what's going on, should be located here. So they pull up, they get to searching, and of course, with their luck, they come across the Blood Scarab itself. They were not wrong. This is the location to get shit popping. And that's when a fight breaks out. They scrap the Blood Scarab. And it's tricky. It's a tricky ass battle. Obviously, this Blood Scarab is no joke. But they get the drop on the Blood Scarab. The mix of Tracy's magical attacks as well as Blue Beetle's power, because he knows off rip he can't play around, right? Like, this is something that melted the other Scarabs that are no joke. So and it stabbed Ted Cord. Like, it's really up. So Blue Beetle gets the drop on him, but at this point, Beetle's not a killer. So Blood Scarab's like, you pussy, like, you coward. You don't deserve that power. You should have cooked me, but you don't know how to cook. That's unfortunate. And gets away, right? Like, is able to get away because Blue Beetle won't end him. And that's when we see the moral slope begin for Jaime Reyes, as he is faced with the idea in this current situation, dealing with something like the Blood Scarab, that, hey, you can't just let people walk away every time. You might have to kill them. Like, Blue Beetle might have to cross that line and put down the Blood Scarab. It's simply too dangerous for any other option to present itself. And that's when we see he's really considering it at this point at the end of the issue. So issue 4 starts off with some more expansion of Victoria Cord's lore and character, you know. And this is in the form of her assistant bringing her a shit ton of flowers. It's an absurd amount. And her assistant, Brenda, who doesn't really vibe with Victoria, but then again, who the hell does? She's like, yo, why would you get this insane amount of flowers? Like, it's ridiculous. And Cord goes, oh, well, who sent them? You know, like, who made such an impression like this? And her assistant goes, Lex Luthor. This is crazy because Cord says Lex did this because he wants me for my brain. Like, basically, she's one of the smartest characters in DC, and Lex is trying to see what she knows, trying to figure out some of the things she understands, which is a big if true statement because Lex himself is an intellectual powerhouse. He's one of the GOATs. And for him to acknowledge someone like Victoria as a part of the Big Brain Gang, that's pretty damn impressive. And this is when we switch over to Blue Beetle's boy, Paco, trying to get it in, right? And he was trying to make a move on one of the Beatles hosts. I'm gonna be real, I can't blame him for this. Like, if I found a girl who had the Scarab, it's up. I'm wifing her immediately. Like, you can she's a big dog. She's got one of the Scarabs. But he's trying to get her on a date. But obviously we know it's absolute chaos in Palmera City right now. So this is going to be very complicated anyways. Even if he was going to score at any other point in time, it's hard to score now because there's constant chaos in the city. And we kind of pan over to what's going on with the the Blood Scarab rather, as we see the host is not actually consenting to the actions going on. This is not a willing host of the Scarab. It is someone simply being used by the Scarab to get the job done, but clearly the host is against whatever's going on. He's like, I don't want to be a fucking part of this. And that's when we see the Horizon have done a complete analysis on the Blue Beetle and kind of explain to Jaime how dire the situation is from the standpoint of what the Blue Beetle is capable of. They go, you know, Jaime, we've examined the Scarab, Khajiit in particular, and it's the ultimate weapon. It has limitless power. Like, this is an item that on paper could pretty much beat anything in existence. So by proxy of using it, Jaime, you technically could beat anyone in existence. And Jaime's like, yeah, I get it. Like, I understand where you're coming from. And again, the Horizon just are always laying down facts. They're like, to the Reach and to the Horizon and pretty much everyone else, Jaime is the ultimate weapon. There's a lot more consequences to the powerhouse nature of Khajiit than Jaime's given credit to. Because if you can be the ultimate weapon, that could also theoretically make you the ultimate evil. If you were to, for any reason, be taken over or to turn evil yourself, at that point, the Blue Beetle is the most dangerous evil in the universe because of what it's capable of. And Jaime really has to start appreciating this because it's a big deal. We see, because of that, obviously, the blood. If you're trying to figure out from a cosmological standpoint where Khajiit would stand, Khaji is above the other Scarabs. Like, that's just what it is. Khajiit is the big dog. So naturally, Jaime can do anything a Scarab can do, but better. He should be the supreme one out of them, as Paco is going on a walk with the one of the hosts and goes, you know, I know we're trying to go on a date, but I need you to understand the situation in Palmera City. Like, shit's always going down. Jaime Reyes, since he's a hero, is constantly dealing with a bunch of crazy stuff. And because of this, he's got to grow. Like, he's got to become one of the GOATs. Like, it is what it is. He's constantly getting hit with crazy shit. And Paco is basically saying, like, Jaime's my dog. He's going to get the job done. Like, regardless of what people think of him or even what sometimes he thinks, Blue Beetle is that guy. This is when we see Jaime has visited Starfire, who, and I know I got to cover graduation day, has, you know, a very strong relationship with Blue Beetle at this point. Like, she's absolutely his mentor. And that's really the only person he can tell how he really feels about situations. And he tells her, like, dude, I gotta lock the fuck in. Like, this is crunch time, and the Blood Scarab is a monster. Like, this isn't just something you fight on a Tuesday and go home after, right? This is something that could destroy the world. It's something that would threaten all his friends. It's something that would kill him if he's not on his P's and Q's. And he says, I'm really sick of thinking about this thing. I'm really sick of having to wake up not knowing if my friends will live today, because the blood scarab can pull up at any point and kill them. And I might not be able to stop that. And he says the only way I can really think to stop this is to make sure he's not breathing anymore. And we see a really dope moment from Starfire where, to me, this puts her in like the top 10 friends you could have, right? She goes, all right, Jaime, you're a hero. I get that. Like, you're supposed to be a superhero. And a lot of people will judge you accordingly to what you should be or what they think the ideal hero should be. But she's like, I want you to understand, I don't judge you that way. Like, you're my friend. And regardless of what decision you make here, whether you decide to let him live, take him down, and figure it out from there, or whether you put him on a t shirt, I'm still by your side. But let me warn you, once you catch your first body, it changes you as a person. Starfire's killed before, so she can genuinely speak to this. And he says, I understand that, but at this point, I gotta cook. And she says, I hope you embrace like what comes with that. But good luck. I got your back anyways. And he takes off to go handle business at the end of the issue. Now, the end of issue 4 and bleeding into issue 5 is a conversation being had by the likes of Victoria Cord and Beetle. He pulls up. She doesn't like him, right, for obvious reasons. She's like, what are you doing, Goody Two Shoes? Like, first of all, where's my brother? All that. He's like, he's safe. Don't worry about it. But Blue Beetle's like, I'm not really here for a friendly conversation or anything like that. We got to talk business. And this kind of gets Cord's interest because typically Jaime is a Goody Two Shoes. And she's like, oh, he sounds like he's trying to make a play. And he goes, if you were trying to kill me or you were trying to kill a Scarab, how would you do it? And she says, oh shit. Now this is a conversation I'm down to have. And that's when we see it pan over to a character who's basically seeing the end of all things. And this is one of my favorite characters to be brought up in this arc because we don't see her often, right? Like it's just another dope lore reference from my boy Josh, right? And this is Gimmicks. Now, Gimmicks is, if I were to put it lightly, a more palpable Constantine, like isn't as abrupt, really just obviously has seen some fucked up things and can do some fucked up things. So she can be clutch, okay? Mad potential there. And she has this cosmic bag of magic tricks. That's essentially what it is. Whether she's pulling out a hairbrush, she's pulling out mascara, she's pulling out something, it could do some crazy magical shit. And she got trapped in this bag for a long time, but she's been freed. And she's telling everyone, like, look, I've seen some crazy things, some cosmic level horrors, and this upcoming event will not be like that. It won't be an exception. It's going to be crazy as fuck. And it's explained that unlimited power and ultimate power is ultimately something used to describe the blood scarab. Like she says, even with my cosmic bag of tricks, even with Starfire, with the Beetles, with Blue Beetle, this is something we might not be able to clutch up. Like the blood scarab is potentially beyond everything we have at our disposal and everything we're capable of. The world might be cooked. Now think about the ramifications of a statement like that. That would include Superman, everyone else on Earth. Like they wouldn't be able to stop a fully unleashed blood scarab. That's potentially what could happen. This is when we see a Lex Luthor tier intellect, which is how Victoria Cord's been built up to be, who has been in this field her whole life. Like she admits that. She says, I've been working with superpowered beings and all that her whole life. She says she can't really think of a way to kill Blue Beetle. Kajida himself would have to tell her. This includes the study done by Victoria Cord on the emotional spectrum and Lantern specifically, as she has Lantern shit in her custody at this point. So we know she has a grand understanding of the cosmic landscape and still needs Kajida's help to figure out how to put him down. This is when we see an inevitable truth about the Scarab be brought forth. The Scarabs really are only inhibited by their host. Depending on the host, you could potentially disable a Scarab. And she goes on to talk about, oh, this may be a blessing because Cyborg tried something similar. He fucked up, but we're better than Cyborg. Let's get this done. And we see a callback to how Kashida views this situation. Kashida has actually encountered in the past the Blood Scarab, or the first iteration of the Blood Scarab. And the battle was so brutal that the Blue Beetle, or Kashida himself, did not heal from the damage for decades. Like, it took a long time to recover from such an insane, cataclysmic battle. And so there is an insane awareness of what they're going up against on behalf of Kashida. Like, he trusts Jaime, but at the same time, clearly he's like, yo, we can't play around with this. I've fought this being before. We have to go for broke as soon as we see it. It's on site 100%. You gotta try to kill it. And this is when we see the Scarab tech is revealed to be beyond even the likes of Cyborg. This is an insane statement and realization because modern Cyborg is him. Like, he's hacked new god shit, apocalyptic tech, extra dimensional tech. But the Scarab was beyond his capabilities and understanding of how to bring it down. We then see that the Scarab Beetle is revealed by gimmicks to be capable of world ending ritualistic magic. Now, if you were paying attention at the beginning of the movie, you were already aware that the Blood Scarab has shown some sort of propensity with magic. We're not quite sure to what extreme yet, but it was enough that Blue Beetle ran to the Oblivion Bar. Okay, like it was legit. And we see, yes, a ritual is going down. The Blood Scarab's going to try to make a play. We then actually see the ritual occur. It's happening in a massive football field, and the ritual is going down with the Blood Scarab saying, you know, I'm going to end everything. I'm going to take out the Blue Beetle. I will live forever. You all serve me. You all are powering me. Let's make a move. And that's when the ritual goes down. The Blood Scarab emerges talking crazy shit, and we're going into a wild, chaotic ending to the Scarab War. The Blood Scarab's talking crazy, like, dude, I've got my army now. I've completed this ritual. We see the sun getting blotted out. It's fucking crazy, and the end of the world is upon them. Like, Gimmick says, hey, this is, if we don't act now, if we don't go take on the Blood Scarab and what it's got cooking, Earth is done. Everyone is cooked. And so we see the Beatles suit up, which is really dope because both these Beatles got their asses kicked by the Blood Scarab, who is now stronger. But even with that in mind, they're like, we're not running. Like, we have to clutch up or everyone's done. We're not going to sit around and just be bitches. And Blue Beetle is on the same mode, right? Like, he knows he's got to pull up on the Blood Scarab on site. That's when we see the tactical attack begin. And at this point, many Scarabs are pulling up. They're like mini Blood Scarabs. And Starfire goes, Blue Beetle, don't even trip about this. I will run the hands with all of them. He's like, yo, that's like, that's a small army. Like, why would you fight them one-on-one? And she goes, that's what makes it fun. And we see Starfire's about it at this point. Like, she's ready to get her status up. She's about to put hands on people. We then see the Blood Scarab has been prepping to run into Blue Beetle. He's talking shit like, hey, I have an army. You can't even get through that. Your army doesn't scare me. Like, you've tried this shit before. I'm ready for you. I prepared for you. You're about to get your ass beat. And we see Blue Beetle flying through this. He's talking about, you know, you put hands on my people. You're threatening Earth. This is not, you're not getting the Jaime you think you're fighting. Like, you still consider me in the light of someone who, you know, will spare you. Like, this is not one of those situations. And Blue Beetle rocks the shit out of Blood Scarab, and he lets the Scarab know, like, hey, that one was for Ted Cord. Like, you put your hands on the OG, I'm putting you down. And he even states to stay down. Like, don't don't try to get out, big dog, because I'm gonna put you on a t-shirt. And that's where Blue Beetle tells his friends, like, fall back, go handle everything else, respect the one-on-one. This is someone that I'm gonna beat the shit out of. Like, let me act accordingly. Don't interfere. Let me take out the Blood Scarab. And that's the end of issue 5, heading into a chaotic conclusion. As we head into the last issue of Scarab War, and thus issue 6 being the ending crazy conclusion to the movie, make sure to like and subscribe if you have not already done so, and make sure to go purchase Blue Beetle 1 through 6, the Scarab War, from your local comic shop. Shout out to Josh, he's a big supporter of the channel, and we want to show him love. I'm also going to give away Scarab War as well, a collection, and like this video as well as join my Discord to become eligible for the giveaway. But heading into this final issue, we see Team Blue Beetle is facing off against Team Blood Beetle in a chaotic battle to decide the fate of Earth. And this is when we get a backdrop on what the Blood Beetle's been cooking, right? The Blood Scarab's host, Javier, it turns out is just an explorer from Argentina. This was someone just trying to find ancient artifacts from some of the greatest explorative minds in DC. And this is when we see Javier had come into contact with the Blood Beetle and been taken over. We see that ultimately the Blood Scarab is trying to draw Khaji-Da in. That is because the idea is for the Blood Beetle or the Blood Scarab to become immortal, like be able to live without the host, just become the ultimate being. And the only way to do so is to absorb the ultimate or the greatest power, which would be Khaji-Da itself. This is when we see Blue Beetle get blasted and he's at 45%, right? This is a prepped Blood Scarab who is playing to win. And that is when the other Beetles try to slide on Blood Scarab and they're like, hey, we know you put hands on us before. Like, we know you came through as this ultimate threat, but we're not scared. We're heroes. Like, we're going to get down. And regardless, we're going to try to put you on a t-shirt. Unfortunately, these Scarabs were not giving out t-shirts on these days. Instead, they start getting mixed immediately. Blood Scarab's talking shit like, yo, you guys are fucking D-listers compared to me. I can't believe you're pulling up. He's de-limbing them. He's slashing them. He's pummeling them. It's rough out here for them. And it's so crazy, too, because this just shows how stupidly powerful the Blood Scarab is. These are two Beetles that took on Shazam and Flash, but they're getting absolutely throttled here. That's nuts to think about. And this is when we see the beatdown is interrupted by Starfire, right? She pulls up and she blasts the Blood Scarab and she goes, you know what? Like, you've been out here talking crazy. You've been doing crazy shit, but I've fought gods. I've killed demons. Like, I've seen all this shit. And when it comes to gods and demons, you're not one of them. And Blood Scarab's like, yo, you're talking mad spicy, but you've seen the score so far. Like, you know I'm crazy. And Starfire doesn't care. She starts letting him have it. Like, she's going all out. And the Blood Scarab, while not getting, like, melted by any means, is like, oh shit, like, this bitch is wildly capable. This is a situation where the Scarab's like, yo, you're nothing more than a distraction, even though you're putting hands on me. And she goes, that's fine, because guess what? I am distracting you. Rocks his ass, and that's when we see Jaime is back to full power. But Blue Beetle's not just back at full power. He reveals his legato mode. He has a stronger version that he picked up from graduation day during his advancement as a character there. And this is a mode that, first of all, looks badass, and it puts him on a lot more dangerous of a threshold compared to his base form. And that's when we see the others are kind of staying out of this battle, and they're ordered to take a tactical retreat from Starfire. Starfire's like, look, everybody get out of here. I'm going to handle the enemy. Like, y'all don't have to worry about this. And they're like, yo, that's a small, like, Blood Scarab army. Like, are you sure? And she's like, oh yeah, like, this won't be a problem. I'll 1v million or whatever they have. Like, that won't be a problem at all. This is when we see it pan back over to Blue Beetle versus the Blood Scarab. And they are clashing as Beetle is able to hang in the pocket with an amped Blood Scarab. And at one point, while they're swapping hands, he sees a resistance put up by Javier, the host of the Blood Scarab. And this immediately puts Jaime onto the idea that, like, oh shit, this is a host that doesn't want to be here. Like, we're about to kill someone that's innocent. And he understands they're just being used by the Blood Scarab. This complicates a lot of things because while he was willing to kill before, this complicates it with an innocent being involved. That's when Kaji Da becomes my favorite character of the arc. Because Kaji Da says, hey, I've run into the Blood Scarab before. I've fought it. I don't have time for this. Matter of fact, I don't care what you think about this. I'm gonna kill him. Like, I'm putting hands on him. He's gonna get his ass beat. And Jaime's trying to tell Kaji Da, like, yo, there's an innocent involved that we can't just kill right now. Kaji Da hits him with the shut up, bitch, and starts hooking. At this point, both hosts are resisting their scarabs. They're trying to get them to stop. They don't want to kill each other. Javier is completely innocent, and at this point, Jaime doesn't want to kill an innocent man, even if it means putting down the blood scarab. He's still got that moral integrity to him where he doesn't want to cross that line. Kajida, however, does not give a shit. Kajida is like, we're not letting this fall into their hands. We're cooking. And stabs the blood beetle in a final exchange, putting it down, catching a body. As we see, Jaime is devastated by this, and it also adds another devastating factor of that if Kajida deems it to be a dire situation where he has to act according to what he sees as the best way to react, nothing Jaime can do about it. Like, he's just cooked. And this battle ends as Blue Beetle catches a body, crossing the line and killing someone because Kajida made him. We also suddenly see Tachyons get involved, and he is teleported away against even Kaji Da's will. Like, Kaji wasn't even able to stop this teleportation. And we see that at the end of Scarab War, the hunt for Ted Cord begins now. And that is the conclusion to the Scarab War. Blood Scarab goes down, the host is dead, but it's pretty obvious this is a powerhouse and we will see it again. And it's something that even Shredded Defenses made for Doomsday was beyond even characters that could take on Shazam and Flash. The Blood Scarab is a monster. Blue Beetle caught a body. Ted Cord's wilding out somewhere now. His sister is apparently Lex Luthor tier. There's a lot of shit going down from the Scarab War. Personally, I love the run. I'm looking forward to actually going back and making the Graduation Day movie as well. This is a run you should go check out and support, and let me know in the comments, what should the next movie be? What should we cover next like we did Scarab War? Should it be Kraven's Last Hunt? Should it be Sins of Sinister, Darkhold, Strange Academy? Let me know what y'all want to see, but let me know in the comments. Thank you all for supporting and watching this far. Shout out to my guy Josh for writing a banger series. And yeah, I will see y'all later. Peace.